Welcome back to the Jacked Racing YouTube channel. Welcome to the old garage, if you remember that from the 4-cylinder days. We're doing something very different today. I wanted to make a video talking about, what's happened in the last couple of days since the little incident we had at New Smyrna Speedway a couple of days ago. And I thought, what better way to do this than to jump on a podcast and talk about it. So our friends over at the Racin With Ryan Podcast are going to be calling me here in a second. And we're going to chat about what happened. So I figured I'd record it all, show you guys exactly what's going on. This can serve as an update video. You guys can check out Ryan's podcast, which you should do. It's a great podcast if you like short track racing. So check them out, and hopefully you enjoyed this video with all the updates of what's going on. Once we get this covered, I'll in a few days maybe we'll head up to the shop and see exactly what's going on with the truck. We've got a lot of big projects. It's already back in 1,000 pieces, so we'll get there, figure that out. For now, we're going to pretend that Ricky Rudd here is Ryan, since we're not in the same place to film this, and dive into it. So let's go.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, on the phone we have Jack Hall, driver of the 00 Pro Truck. He's been on the show before in the last couple of times. We've had a lot of good things to talk about. And as we just talked about on the last segment, quite the story to be told about Jack's World Series. And unfortunately, Jack, as we bring you in here, not a World Series that you're going to want to remember.
It's one we're going to remember, but not for the reasons we want to remember it.
That's a good way to put it. So Margot just kind of told us, because she was there, she gave us her point of view on it, but we want to get you in. We want to hear from you about what happened, because it's your truck. It's you and your dad's baby here. And I know that since we've recorded, there has been further discussion, and I want to get your whole take on the incident. So tell us exactly from your perspective what happened.
Yeah, so I'd eat up your entire showtime if I told you the long story of the accident. But basically, long story short, I'm sitting in the chute outside of Turn 4 waiting to come down for our feature. A guy on a golf cart pulls up. I guess had the idea that getting his golf cart through the line of race cars was imperative for some reason, so he got out to try and have me move my truck, which had kind of a clutch that was a little bit maybe on the way out. We weren't quite sure what was going on, but I didn't feel the need to start my truck up and move it through the pits just so this guy can, move his golf cart through. I feel like race cars always should have the right of way in an active pit, especially in the lineup chute. So I really didn't feel like I had to turn my truck on and move it just for that. So I guess he came up and had the idea that he was gonna, I guess he was thinking he was just going to push my truck out of the way. So he tried to get me to turn the wheel to, I guess, push my truck, which joke would have been on him. My truck's super heavy and does not roll well with just the force of one person. So that would have been funny to watch. But anyways, I tried to show him, I tried to move the steering wheel and show him, hey, it doesn't turn without the motor on, and I can't run the motor right now. So I guess he took it upon himself to try and help me by putting his hands in on the wheel and putting a lot of force on it. So he tried for a couple of seconds, pushed on it pretty darn hard, and it ended up snapping a U-joint down by the steering box. So we were basically dead in the water in that exact moment. And all over moving a golf cart through an active lineup chute.
So what did you say to this guy as he's reaching into your truck, not his truck? He's not helping you. He's upset that, his line through the pits is now impeded by the actual things that are putting on a show. What is your reaction when this guy reaches into your truck? Did you speak to him and say, hey, if you can help me, or did he just took it upon himself to just reach in there and try to move your truck?
I'm not going to lie to you. I think I blacked out in the moment. I don't 100% remember everything that happened, but I do remember kind of, turning the wheel a little bit and saying, I can't turn it. I think that's all I said was, I can't turn it. Now, keep in mind, I was fully strapped in. We were about to go out in like 5 minutes. The modified race was almost over. If the dude had just waited 5 or 10 minutes, this wouldn't have even happened. But I was fully strapped in. I had my helmet on. I had my earbuds in. I wasn't necessarily in a spot to just be chatting with someone. So I just remember saying, I can't turn it, and I guess to him that was an invitation to help. And then once it snapped, I don't think I said anything. I was just like completely shocked at what had happened. As soon as I heard the pop and saw the wheel spin 360 degrees with no effort, I was like, all right, he broke it. And I think I don't remember, honestly. I just sat there completely silent. I was stunned didn't know what happened. He popped the hood up, which I guess maybe is another debate. He went and took my hood pins off and took a good look under the hood and saw, he's like, hey, the weld on the steering joint is broken or whatever he said. And I think I just got on the radio and said, car's broke. And of course, Dad is like, what? And I'm pretty sure that's when Margot says, why is there someone under your hood? And came over, and that was kind of the end of it right there.
Oh my God! She texted me this as the trucks are rolling out, and we have a big field of trucks coming out there, so I don't notice right away that you're not part of them, until I saw her text. And sometimes I miss text while I'm up there because I'm focused on what's going on. But a lot of times between races, I try to check my phone to see what I've missed, because usually it's like, hey, can you announce something? As I'm in the middle of a race. And I happen to see this, and I'm like, what the hell? And Margot's like, yeah, I am so pissed right now. I gave my stuff to Jack, and I'm going to the infield so I don't get in trouble. And I think my response was, that's probably for the best. And then I had to focus on the race. And I think, I'm not sure what Speedway video capture, but over the radio, I'm like, well, we got a couple of scratches on the field. This guy crashed. And then something just happened with Jack Hall's truck, and it's ridiculous. And I'm like, and that's really all I can say right now. And I left it at that. But I was like, how in the world can this happen? I know when I'm walking around the pits, Jack, and I'm usually it's just me, or it's me and Peyton in a stroller or a little trike. And during Orange Blossom, there was 2 new cars that rolled in, and I tried to walk over there and jot down what was on the car, so I had a little bit of something to talk about during qualifying for these drivers. I knew who they were, but I wanted to get the sponsors. And right as I walked over there, they literally just fired the engines, and I was in the way of these cars trying to back out and go practice. So I back out of the way, because you're right. The race cars, they are there to race. They are there to be on the track. They have, and I agree with you, they have the right of way in the pits. And if you're a pedestrian, or if you're on a golf cart, if you're on a whatever the hell you've got, get the hell out of the way of the race cars. And if there's a race car in your way, sorry, the race car's purpose is to be there. Your purpose is now you've got this clunky ass vehicle because you're too lazy to walk around the pits. So, and I know for some people it's a necessity. I understand that. I'm not going after those people. But for this guy to think that your truck was such an inconvenience to him that he couldn't wait, he knows what's going on. He works on race cars. He can look at the scoreboard and see this race is almost over, and he can wait his ass 5 minutes. I just think it's so incredible that somebody would think, okay, because my golf cart has to get through, I'm going to reach in this guy's truck and move him. First of all, if he had just moved you out of the way and nothing broke, I'd still be pissed.
Yeah, I would still be like, dude, really? Like, I wouldn't probably have thrown a huge fit, but I would have just been like, seriously, what? If there's an actual emergency going on, I get it, but there was no emergency.
Right.
There was, if it was an actual emergency, I would understand. But this was not an emergency. So I still don't know what the other side of this story is. We can get to that in a minute, but I still don't understand what the logic was. And I always understand there's 2 sides to every story, but I am having a hard time coming up with the other side of this story. Yeah,
I just don't see how this is at all justifiable. Let's not even get into what this cost you not being able to race, and the time spent that you all prepared to get this truck ready to go out. And Friday was rained out. You guys didn't get to race Friday, so you did not even get to get on track during the World Series, and that to me is tragic.
Yeah, I mean it's a bummer. It's one thing we look forward to every year, especially being on Flow, getting some TV coverage. We had some new partners on the truck that we wanted to show off. We took time off of work to be there. We put our dog in daycare to be there. We drove back and forth, 3-4 times that week from about an hour and a half away, and ended up with nothing to show for it. That was the frustrating part. I know everyone wants to talk about the part that broken and if it should or shouldn't have broken, but that was not the point of any of this to me. I could care less if a part breaks on the race car. We do that every week anyway, so
right.
That's just to be expected. But it was the situation that we're mad about, and just everything that decision cost us, and really didn't cost this guy anything. It seems like a really short end of the stick kind of deal for us, just because of a really bad decision someone else made.
Yeah, and we were talking about some of our stories from Speed Weeks, and there's always so many good stories, and then every year there always seems to be a story this one's new. This is crazy to me. But there's always that weird story, and unfortunately, you were one of the weird stories this year.
Yeah.
And it just when Margo was telling me, I literally couldn't believe it. And after the race was done, I had to go. I'm like, you need to tell me exactly what happened. And I got with Rusty, and I'm sure you've spoken to Rusty, and this is why I want to have you on the show. I want to know, now that it's been told from Margo's perspective, your perspective, what have you guys been able to do? What outlets have you taken to reach out to those involved?
So, yeah, we did talk to Rusty. He was very understanding, understood what's going on. And, this was the thing. It wasn't the track's fault. There was no responsibility of the track. Even just talking to Rusty, getting to tell him what happened. I think he watched the video and understood our side of the story. He agreed it was a bad deal. It shouldn't have happened. We mostly just wanted to make sure he was aware of it. We're trying to go about all of this as professionally as possible. I feel like most people would have just got out of their race car and, throw down the hurt on the dude right on the spot. But that's not really how we like to do things. So we're trying to, be professional about all this. So Rusty was very supportive, understood, that's all he can do basically. And that's all we expected from the track. So no problems there. Everything's good. We did talk to the team owner of the team this happened with. I won't mention any names, as things may still be ongoing. We might still have more discussions with them. But the team owner wasn't even aware of the incident. So I figured, I'm sure the guy that did it wasn't going to tell anyone, hey, I just broke someone's car in the lineup chute. That's not something you're going to go back to the hauler and talk about. So the team owner had no idea anything even happened. So we, very calmly approached the team owner and just said, hey, is this, we had an incident with someone on your team. Are you open to discussing it? And they got in touch with us right away, which was nice. And, listened to our side of the story and basically just said, all right, well, I'm going to go talk to the crew member that, this happened with, see if I can get their side of the story, see what they were thinking. And, we can go from there. So that's kind of where we're at. It's not, if the team owner had just been like, oh, well, sucks to suck, you're screwed, that would be, we'd be probably blowing them up right now. But like I said, we don't want to do that. We're not going to be those guys. I had people telling me I should get a lawyer and sue these guys, and I just can't imagine that that's worth it, and that's a whole lot to do. It's one of those things where if anything, we'd just like to recoup what we lost, since, we did lose a lot of money off, maybe not a lot of money in the grand scheme of some of these race teams, but for us, we're a father-son work out of our house, pretty small budget in the grand scheme of things team. So even a couple $100 hit, we feel it, especially when we already had to spend, I think we've already spent like $700 on parts this week to get the truck fixed from everything that we broke. Good. Not even the steering shaft, but we had a couple other things like the clutch, like I mentioned, but these expenses add up for a small team like us. We bought tires there. So I guess in the last week and a half of racing, I'll call it that with air quotes, we've spent probably $1,500 and got 0 feature laps. So that's where we're at. We just wanted to make sure, the parties involved are all aware, see if we can get their side of the story and kind of proceed from there.
Well, it sounds like, even though, the guy didn't answer the phone, but like, oh yeah, we're coming over to fix it. It sounds like it's been being handled as professionally as possible on both sides, because, if the team owner's unaware, then, he's got to go through his channels to figure out, he's got to look at things on his side. And hopefully, and this team involved, I have the utmost respect for, to be honest. And I don't know everybody on the team, and some people are better than others, as is the case with any team. But, it seems like you've done things professionally. Hopefully they will. Hopefully you guys can come to some kind of resolution, or, if anything, maybe this will end up getting some rules in the rule book. Like, hey, if you're on another team, you don't touch anyone else's car, or else it's disqualification for your team, or you get kicked out. I feel like sometimes things like this, these unforeseen things, are what end up making new rules, Yeah,
definitely. And that was kind of why we wanted to talk with, Rusty and the track management about it. Was I know they have that rule on the infield pits of no vehicles during active race times, but I guess, that doesn't necessarily apply to the outside lineup chute, which is where this happened. So if we were in pit lane on the infield, nothing would have happened. But because it's narrow up there and people were trying to get their personal vehicles around, this is how we ended up in this situation.
Right, and to think you started the weekend in the parking lot and actually got to move into the Speedway for this event, and then it ended up being, worst case scenario for you. It sucks that all those things kind of played into it, and you guys end up getting the short end of the stick. You spend the money now. Your tires are still good for the next race, so you can, next time you won't have to pay for tires, but you can't make up for the lost seat time. 50 laps, World Series crowd, flow racing, that good exposure. And now, I guess all you got to show for it is a crazier than expected YouTube video.
Yeah, I mean, I like making crazy YouTube videos, but I would have, that wasn't that wasn't the one I wanted to make.
No. So I also want to ask, I shared your video and I posted about it because, and again, there's nothing I can do as far as change or make anything happen, but I wanted to make sure those that needed to know knew about it, and they do now. But we did get some comments on there, and you got in the same comments like, "Oh, well, you're lucky the guy found the part to brake before you hit the wall or something." What's your response to those types of comments?
Yeah, I knew posting this, it was going to be a wild reaction, and it was going to be all different ends of it. I willingly set myself up for that because I knew I needed to share what happened, and I knew, everyone's got an opinion, and a lot of people aren't afraid to share those opinions. So I kind of knew they were coming. A lot of people were pretty supportive. They agreed that was a stupid thing to happen. It shouldn't have happened. I did get a lot of support, which was great. The other common responses were, I would have handled it a lot more violently than you, and that was kind of expected. But yeah, the big one was a lot of people telling me I needed to go thank this person. They saved my life. They did this. They did that, which I can 99.9% guarantee that part was not going to break on the racetrack. For a comparison's sake, to load the truck back on the trailer, we wrapped a piece of duct tape around that steering shaft and it steered just fine. So the force on that shaft with the power steering running is nothing like the force where the wheels are locked on the ground and you're just hammering on the steering wheel. It's not the same sort of force at all. And you know what? Honestly, they're probably not wrong. I don't think it should have broke. And it maybe wasn't the best connection there. We bought a used race car. You never quite know what you have. And I'm not taking personal offense to any of it because I get people are looking out for my safety and I wasn't the one that welded it. So I don't take it as a personal attack in any way, but I just feel like they missed the point of sharing it. I'm not here to complain about a broken part. Like I said, I don't care about that. We can fix that. 30 minutes, everything's fine.
But people are acting like if it was going to break as we're on lap 3 going down the straightaway and then you're going to hit the wall. I feel like if you had gotten in trouble, had a tire go down or been involved in a wreck and then hit the wall and then it broke, it's a moot point because you've already been in trouble. You've already hit the wall. That part wasn't just going to break and cause you to crash.
No, it wasn't. It was going to make it. Like I said, it had been fine since we bought the truck. We've run hundreds of laps like that. Not a problem. But that force is nothing compared to, the force with power steering is nothing to the wheels just being locked and someone cranking on a steering shaft. So yeah, it's a completely different circumstance is the way I see it. It wasn't going to break on the track.
Yeah. And it's crazy what you open yourself up to when you're trying to share something on social media because you really expose yourself to both sides of everything. And no matter what the situation is, good or bad, I've had that experience plenty of times,
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. Margo and I talked about it when we recorded earlier, and now we're hearing it from your side. And really the stories are quite similar. I know Margo is very emotional and passionate about it, as is her personality. Your personality, more of a laid-back, passive type person. I mean that with all due respect.
No, that's true.
They're lucky that that you're like that and not the fighting type, because there are a lot of people in that pit area where they would have taken the $5,000 fine and beat somebody up for it.
Yep, exactly. That's what I made that comment to Rusty. I was like, most people would have got out and just started fighting. And Rusty's response cracked me up. He goes, "Yeah, that would have cost you $5,000, but sometimes you just got to live a little."
Yeah. I think you've already got enough in the repairs now to get back on track here in a couple of months that, it's good that you're level-headed about things. And that's one of the things I appreciate about you and your team. I know that anytime you guys show up at the pits, even when you have the worst of nights. You guys are still going to present yourselves in a good way, and I think that's important for racing. I think that's why your team is successful in the way that they are successful, and you're a good role model to have in the pit area, especially given this situation, given the audience that you guys have, and the way a lot of teams, they show up, they race, their name is in the results, and that's basically all you hear. With you guys, your whole night is put out there on YouTube, on your social media, so everybody knows what's happening, good or bad, in this case, crazy. So
yeah, pretty much. I know I put myself out there, so I know I'm gonna get a lot of different responses, and that's okay. We're just here to share our story, and not every story is a good one, so it just is what it is.
Well, I know that this is kind of still an ongoing thing. When we left off yesterday, it was, we'd heard that you were going to talk to the team, and we're glad to have the fact that contact has been made, and we hope that going forward, this never happens again to anybody, but hopefully you guys are able to come up with some kind of, if not restitution, some kind of agreement or whatever, or some kind of resolution. And I hope it never happens, and if anything, maybe this makes you guys even better in the long run.
Yeah, no, this definitely maybe taught me to keep my cameras rolling on my helmet before we hit the racetrack, too, because you never know what's going to happen. I wish I had my camera on. I didn't, but, I didn't think I needed to, just sitting in the lineup chute, but apparently you never know. You
never know. That's the crazy thing about racing. Once you show up in those pits, man, it's on. Anything can happen, and again, sorry to have you on the show in this situation, but when you reached out, I'm like, yeah, this is the perfect person to have on the show. Yeah, we had a lot of great things happen during the World Series, a lot of champions, a lot of winners, but I feel like this story needed to be told from the driver himself. So, Jack, again, thank you for taking time. I want to give you an opportunity if there's anything else you want to get out there, and, of course, to share your platforms as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think this is still a little bit ongoing, so I'm just going to leave it at that. If you want to see the full video from the day and hear the entire story, check out our YouTube channel, Jacked Racing. I posted everything there. I'll keep posting everything on there. Check us out, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. Other than that, I'll just leave it at that. It was a bad deal. Don't touch other people's race cars, and your golf cart is not that important.
Hell yeah, I agree with that 100%. And hopefully we'll see you guys back on track full force for the truck season opener.
Absolutely. We'll be there, and I think we're going to go faster than ever. Now we're really motivated, so I think we're going to turn it up this year.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much, Jack, and I look forward to following the saga, and hopefully, like I said, we follow it to a good conclusion. And we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Appreciate you letting me tell my story.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate you. Jack Hall, driver of the 00 Pro Truck. Better days ahead. So we'll let him go, and we'll get on with the rest of the show.